Hello viewers, Super GT here. So there aren't many occasions in racing games where you get to race against a real life racing driver. It does happen in some games, especially things like iRacing, but in Gran Turismo is not too common. So I've raced against David Perel, who you may well have heard of. I've mentioned him a couple of times. He's a real life racing driver, as you can see here, and also plays Gran Turismo Sport. And I had a couple of really good races against him here at Kyoto. You may well have seen his take on this on his channel. It was about a week or so ago. But I thought I'd make my own version of this and give you my thoughts and opinions, as we do. Well, in the video you'll see two races, both around this same track. So this was one of the daily races very recently. Kyoto, 8 laps. It was race C, so there is strategy. It takes about 20 minutes to do this race. And yeah, I just thought I'd give you my opinions, because it's not very often that you come across a real life racing GT racing driver in a game. So I mean, a lot of people, myself included, will do kart racing, but kart racing obviously isn't the same as car racing. There is a lot of difference between the two, and it's always interesting to see, especially when I watch David's live streams and his videos, the experience he can bring from real life racing into a game. You might think that the two are kind of unrelated, but they are actually very related. I was thinking about this the other day. Something like FIFA. If you're good at FIFA, that pretty much has no translation or no bearing onto how good you are at football in real life. But when it comes to racing, especially with simulators, the more a sim it gets, rather than arcade games, there is a big crossover between being good on a sim and also being good in real life. A lot of the decision making, a lot of the pressure, a lot of the strategy does carry over in racing games. And this is something I spoke about in my recent appearance on Gears and Gasoline. So you might have seen that video. I'll link all of this down below. So David's channel, I'll also link the Gears and Gasoline video. So the main thought of that Gears and Gasoline video was basically, can racing games or sims make you better in real life? And I would say that it very much can, not normally in terms of just outright pace, but more in terms of making the right decisions, knowing when to defend, when to attack, and knowing to minimise time loss, and just being overall in a race, just being smarter, making the right decisions, not getting pressured. There's lots of little things like that it definitely does improve. And so it made it very interesting to come up against David, because he has lots of experience on sims and in real life racing. And throughout the video, the main thing I note about racing against him is that he is very smart. He makes very good decisions, and it's very hard to beat someone, even if you're quicker or you might know more about the game. But if they make the right decisions and make it really hard for you to beat them, it's always hard to beat someone who's just making all the right decisions and not really putting a foot wrong and making no mistakes, and you can't pressure them into a mistake. All these little things do add up, especially when you're racing really, really close, as we are here. In fact, I think it's true of a lot of sport, and even sim racing, and even esports in general. When it gets to the very top level, it really is about the mind games. How quickly can you think? How good are your decisions? That kind of thing, rather than any sort of physicality. Of course, esports doesn't really have much physicality, but real life racing does, of course. But when it really comes down to it, I think the decision making and how much pressure you feel, that kind of thing, is really, really important. So at this point here, we are now neck and neck, pretty much. So we've, I haven't been past, but Chewy D's got into the lead. I'm going to go for a move. He covers the inside, and then eventually we go to the right hand side. So it gives me the space and just keeps the inside line. So again, it's just an example there of clever decision making. Cover the inside, waited for me to go to the outside, and then move back across so that he could take a better racing line. So it's just really clinical decision. I couldn't get past, really. And we were just talking about Chewy D there, who's got past David as he covers again. Doesn't want to let me pass at this point of the race, as we get almost bombarded by a Porsche from behind. So Jody's just beginning to pull away, but I don't think he realises that this is really a fuel saving race. So okay, he might be gaining 1 or 2 seconds at this point, but we should presumably be gaining that back in the pit stop, which is going to come at the end of this lap. So again, just tucking into that slipstream as much as we can, because again, it is a fuel-saving race. Once you're behind, it's actually an advantage, I think, to be behind, especially in the first stint on this race. Just sit behind in the slipstream and fuel save. But at this point here, because it's the end of the fourth lap, I do want to get past, which gives me a slight advantage coming into the pit lane. Maybe, let's say if I go in half a second behind, instead of going half a second ahead, there's a full second swing in my favour. So at this point now, I am ahead. So that's really going to swing the race slightly into my favour, rather than being behind going into the pit lane. And here, it's actually really bad timing for him because he's now under attack from a Porsche. So I've gained maybe half a second or more just in this final half of this lap. So that was a good decision, I think, there, just to go past and make the most of the super power up that hill. And here's an example of the strategy. So I saved 40% of fuel. David actually saved more, so he actually saved more fuel throughout that stint. So I was behind, but I couldn't save as much. And you see how equal it was here. So I was ahead, and coming out of the pit lane, I'm still ahead, but only by a small amount. So he's clearly gained by fuel saving a lot better than I did in that stint. So it was only 4%, but that does make quite a bit of difference, because in the second stint it's guessing that you have to use the same amount. So I would have had to put in 8% more technically, which does take about a second. So you lose about a second by doing that. So basically here it comes down to a 1v1 now, because where was it? Chewy D going down to 4th, so he's obviously used too much fuel on that first stint, so he's lost a lot of time in the pit lane. So now it just comes down to a straight battle between the two of us. So we basically have an undiluted battle between the two of us now. And at this point here, the race it becomes a 1v1, an interesting scenario, because again, he doesn't want you, well, we both want to save fuel, but you don't want to get past too early. So he could just sit behind for the time being and just wait for the best time to pass. We're on lap 7 now, so we are getting towards the end of the race. He doesn't want to leave it too late, and this is all kind of the whole decision-making thing being put into practice. Because I think when you're in a real-life racing car, of course, it's a lot more stressful. You've got the heat, you've got the G-forces, you've got just tiredness in general. You've got people in your radio, you've got the sound, the smell. And if you can make clean and quick and correct decisions in that stress, it should be a lot easier to do it when you're sitting on your sofa in your living room playing Gran Turismo Sport. So that's a large part of the thing where real life experience does cross over. It's just the calmness to make the right decision, to do the right thing in the right situation, and to not feel pressure yourself. So he makes the move work here. I just couldn't quite get that chicane quite right, and he's actually made the move. So with maybe 1.25 laps remaining, he's taken the lead. I'll go a little bit wide over that corner there, which is really easy to do. It kind of suckers you in, and it's actually a really sharp corner. So I was looking for the repeat of the move I did on lap 4. He covers it a little bit more this time, just to really make sure I'm not going to go up that inside. So he's learnt his lesson from lap number 4, where that race really could have got away from him there, because I did go up his inside. He almost lost 3rd position to the Porsche. In fact, he kind of did, and that could have really ruined his entire race, but the fuel saving kind of saved it. So at this point here, we're gearing up to the biggest opportunity, I think, on the lap, which is around the final corner, onto the main straight into turn 1, which is a very sharp left-hander. So let's see how this works. So the Supra's got really good straight-line speed. He's in the Toyota FT1, which is very good around the turns, but not quite as good on the straights. So I'm going to keep to the left here, and most people would always go back out to the right-hand side, but he knows to cover the inside, and I make a mistake by braking too late and basically kill my entire race. And that was the end of that. So he made the right decision. He stayed to the left-hand side and just covered it and just would not let it go. Whereas most people, I'd notice, if you stay to the inside, they will move out eventually, but he just didn't. He stayed right there and made me make the first move. which was a really smart thing to do, and then just react to whatever I did. And it worked because I made a mistake and I just judged it completely wrong. I was trying to go around the outside, but I should have just gone up the outside. But often in these situations I try to do something quite different and quirky and just try to put people off by trying to overtake them in a weird way, because not many people would stay directly behind, and it might not be in a situation he's used to. But clearly he made the right call just to stay on the inside. So we go again. This was the race that he posted on his channel, and we're going to take it on from my perspective, or from both our perspectives, but obviously with my commentary on this channel. So once again, he's in the lead, and we mentioned in the first race that sitting behind is actually not too bad of an idea because of the fuel saving. Such as the power of the fuel saving in the pit lane. How much time you save is massive. So at this point of the race, I'm quite content to sit behind. Although if an opening does make itself clear, then I'll go for it. I think the main strategy, I think one of the things he said in his video was, at this point, when you're in the lead, there's no point really in trying to pull away too much. You can do it as long as you get out of the slipstream range, and then you're okay. But you do use up a lot of fuel in trying to do it. So one strategy is to really go for it and just try to get away, or just really save fuel and then back me up into the people behind. So I've got this Porsche driver very close behind, and the slower David drives trying to save fuel, the more I'm going to get backed up into this driver behind me, and there's a chance that we could start fighting and I could lose time. So again, this is just another thing I think that carries over from reality, just the understanding that you're trying to maximise your own strategy, but you're also at the same time trying to, in a nice way, ruin the strategy of other people around you or behind you. It's not in a nasty way, but in racing, that's kind of what you're doing. You see in Formula 1 all the time, yeah, okay, we'll just block this guy for 10 laps because he can't overtake around Monaco or something. You know, there's a lot of tracks where you can't overtake, so people will just ruin each other's strategies, and this is a very normal thing to do. So this time I go to the right hand side, he covers it off, and you can basically see that I made the first move, and then I went over to the right hand side, and then once he knew that I was on the right, then he moved back over. So there's no chance of me cutting back suddenly to the left hand side to go up the inside. So again, top defensive work into that first corner. I just basically was trying to unlock the door to go up the inside, but he just basically would never open that door. A lot of people, you can kind of work it out quite quickly. Okay, I need to do this, and then they'll open the inside. But against David, I just couldn't get him to open the inside. He would always block it and force me the long way round. Because around a very long, sharp left-hander, which it is, you're just almost certainly going to have to go up the inside. It's impossible to go around the outside. And again, he just covers off the left-hand side. I could have gone swerving over to the left there, maybe tried up the inside. Would have been a brave move, but I couldn't quite manage it again. At this point though, again, still not too displeased, because it doesn't matter too much, because if I can just fuel save a little bit more than he can, he gets a little bit of a boost there. I think I hit him in the back. As long as I can save more fuel than he can, then we can overtake him in the pit stop strategy anyway, akin to F1 basically, where you don't bother overtaking on the track, just wait until the pit stops and then just do it there. So again, another crucial point of the race. In the previous race I managed to overtake him by this point, the end of lap 4, which is where we're going to go into the pit lane. Again, I'm trying to attack him at this part of the race, just trying to get past him now, to again get that sort of slingshot past him, and rather than go in half a second behind, go in half a second ahead, which gives you just quite a big swing in your favour. But it's not going to happen at this point, although we are right on his tail, just to really get as close as possible coming in. And this time around, he saved 4% more last time, I've saved 4% more this time. So I should come out ahead once again. So as we come in, you see how even it is, as we both go into our pit boxes. And I'm away a little bit earlier, maybe about half a second, and that kind of shows you the difference between the two of us. And just if you look at the fuel meter, the bottom left of the screen, he's got maybe 5 or 6% more fuel. So I think I've actually underfueled. I've really underfueled the car, which was a bit, not the right decision really, basically, because now I'm going to have to do some extreme fuel saving. But then again, he kind of managed that in the first stint, and especially in the last race as well. You can still do it as long as you just block them off at the right times. you can still save quite a lot of fuel and keep someone behind. Just make sure you do it at the right kind of points on the track. So, end of lap number 6. We are coming towards the final quarter of the race. I get kind of stuck on the curb there. Just trying to make the right decision now. Is he within range? He kind of has a little look to try to put me off. And I do brake a little bit late, but it's not going to be enough, I don't think. I've still got the right-hand side here, which will be the inside for the next turn. So I do just keep the position. So less than 2 laps to go. So it's going to go down to the wire once again between the two of us. Third place is a good couple of seconds away, so about 4 or 5 seconds behind. So now we can start fighting. So a lot of the strategy here as well, in many ways, is to kind of just to not fight too early. You don't want to fight too early in the race because you just lose so much time to everyone else. Bring everyone else into the fight. If anything, all you want to do is really just churn out the laps nice and early in the race, as we just have a brief bit of contact there. You want to churn out the laps early in the race so that you get away, get a gap to everyone else, and then do the fighting late, where you've got the gap, you've got the security of not having someone right behind you, or not having anyone else in the fight. It's just a sort of 1v1, and then you can fight. So now going defensive, covering him off, a little bit of contact through the apex, but we just keep the position for now. So this is where I have to go really strong on the defence, as it pretty much is not going. I'm not going to be able to get away. He's in the slipstream. I've not been able to escape that the entire race so far. So now it's just really a case of just keeping him behind for the remainder of the race. Again, going defensive up the hill. The slipstream really powerful up that hill. And again, just really trying to keep on the apex. And you see there, don't open up the inside, just to make sure that you can't just stick a nose in there and get the gap and try to pry it open. So for now, just keeping the position down the fast sweeping S's. Very difficult to get right, especially when you're behind, because you can't quite see the apexes as you go through. Looking up the inside into the final turn, not quite there. And as we come round the final turn onto the main straight for the last time, at least the full length of the straight for the last time, as he goes to the right, you see there just a kind of a few dabs of the brake, which is really clever. And it's really clever because he moved to the right, so I thought, okay, he's going to commit to the right hand side, but then he stayed back by braking, and then he could move back to the left. Because what I was doing, he was covering the left, so I moved to the right, and then I was fully alongside on the right, and then he could move across, and then there's no chance of me going back to the left because I'm on his right hand side. But this time he went to the right, braked, so that he wasn't side by side with me. Then he could move back to the left. So it was a really smart little overtake there. I didn't really expect it. I opened up the inside, something that he wasn't doing. He was never opening up the inside into turn 1, and he got me to do it very easily. So this is kind of the smart little tricks that kind of carry over, and he's made it work. But there's still half a lap left, and I could go for a return move with not many corners remaining. Still third place is a long way off. So it's a direct 1v1 at this point here. We are both running out of fuel, but we should be able to get to the end. I've tried to save as much fuel as you can. The idea really is to try to save as much fuel as you can, so that on the final lap, when it really comes down to it, you can really attack all of the gears and just really rev the crap out of the car to get maximum power. But they're just making a mistake, and it's that little right hand corner through that fast sweeping left-right chicane that I couldn't quite get right, and it cost me in the previous race and it cost me in this race as well. The fact that I made a mistake there, both races kind of telling I didn't really learn the line. I couldn't quite adapt to that corner in the way I wanted. But ultimately 2-0 to David as he crossed the line. But either way, I mean, I lost both, but I'm just happy just to be part of the battle with someone who's very, very good at having a race. They know what they're doing clearly. So it's a good battle. And, I'd rather be battling and losing against a good player than just beating no one or beating rubbish players. This doesn't really count, doesn't really matter at all. But if it was any consolation, I did actually win a race earlier on in the evening. We can take a very brief look at that here. So I was in the Porsche, and we've got a Wi-Fi password there making an appearance in second place. So David was on pole position for this one. By the pit stop, I saved so much fuel. It was actually ridiculous how much I saved. I was like 4 seconds ahead or 3 seconds ahead. And he kind of hit this phantom wall. He got very close to it, but it still seemed really strange that they hit that wall. So it kind of shows you that as good as he was all day, there were some mistakes, so he wasn't completely bulletproof. But there we go. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed the video. The links to the Gears and Gasoline video and of course David's channel in the description. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts on it, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.